welcome back to season two of Navigating the 9 to 5. That didn't go very well, did it? My name's Tess. I'm a career consultant and I'm going to be your host for what is series two. So thanks for being here. This is new, isn't it? I'm recording myself for those of you that are watching. Hi. For those of you that are listening, also hi. So I thought I'd start by just kind of introducing myself and just talking a little bit about why I'm here, what it is that I'm trying to do, and why I guess why I think you should listen to me or watch me. Um, so here goes. First of all, if you want to, if you've got anything that you want to say, ask, do, whatever, um, I am at Tessa Grint on Instagram, Tessa_Grint. I am at Tessa, not at, whatever it is on LinkedIn. What is it on LinkedIn? I am Tessa Grint brackets No Williamson on LinkedIn, where I'm probably the most active. And I'm also the founder of the Light Me Up Club. So Light Me Up, yes, the Light Me Up Club on LinkedIn. No, that's a total lie. On Instagram. So yeah, check us out over there as well. So let's start at the beginning. Let's start with my mission. So, like I said, I founded Light Me Up. Um, December 2023 is when I properly sort of started working in it, and I actually founded it, I think it was May of that year. And our mission there is to help to help everyone fall back in love with what they do. And my vision is to create a new generation of heart-centered, spiritually curious leaders. And how I want to do this is kind of the three main areas that we look at. So I spent 17 years in the corporate world and I learned a hell of a lot through the time that I was there. And I guess my backstory probably starts a good few years ago now. I think probably, God, when we first gone into COVID actually. And I quite quickly, kind of a couple months into COVID, I got really burnt out. Surprise, surprise. It's kind of everybody's story, isn't it? But this is mine. This is my truth. Um, and so yeah, a couple of months in or whatever, we were all kind of chained to our desks, feeling kind of the need to be present. And I was working towards a promotion that I'd been working towards this promotion for about 3 years, and sort of I think in kind of at the end of March or beginning of April or whatever, I had another kind of a quarterly review, appraisal, whatever you want to call it, and my manager was like, "Yeah, you're not going to get this promotion," kind of thing. "You're not ready for me to put you forward," sort of thing. And I was like, "What the fuck?" So I'd been working for this promotion for 3 months, 3 years, sorry, not 3 months, 3 years, and in each appraisal, he would be like, do a bit more of this, and then then it'll happen, then I'll put you forward, do a bit more of this. And so I did these things, and he never put me forward. And I realize now I'm really grateful to him for doing this, because actually what happened was at that particular point, um, I got so stressed about work that actually I got signed off for a couple of weeks with stress. So it all culminated in a really difficult conversation, which I won't go into the detail of, but it wasn't pleasant. And I had this realization in the 2 weeks when I was off, that I had been working towards a promotion for 3 years that I didn't want, that actually my ego wanted. And the reason is that I was 33, I think I was 32, 33. Um, and I wasn't married, and I didn't have children, and I didn't have director or head of in front of my title on LinkedIn, and everybody around me was putting those bloody LinkedIn updates on there. Oh, sorry about that. I don't know if you could hear that. Putting their LinkedIn updates on there. Saying, "Oh, I'm so thrilled to be promoted to head of this," and all that sort of stuff. And obviously, I got, comparisonitis, and that wasn't fun. But it's society as well, right? Because it sort of tells us that, we should, you know, do all these things. And I hadn't done any of them. So I was like, shit, who the hell am I if I'm not a mum or a wife or, this, that, and the other? Anyway, this 2 weeks off that I had basically enabled me to kind of have a full reset and just kind of get some space in between me and my job. And actually, during this time, a very dear friend of mine put me in touch with a brilliant coach who I was very, very lucky to be able to afford to use. She's absolutely amazing. Her name's Kate Hunter. Go check her out. She's absolutely brilliant. And in one of the sessions that we had, when I was in the midst of crying my eyes out for the fact that this guy, wasn't going to put me forward for this promotion, and my just obsession with it. And she turned around and she said, and it will stick with me forever. She just said quite simply, "Do you even want this job?" And the reality is that I absolutely did not want it, which is so ridiculous to say, but like, I guess I don't think I realized that I had a choice or something. I don't really know what it was, but I think I was just so laser focused on making this happen that I hadn't actually thought about the fact that the work itself in that leadership role was everything that didn't work to my natural ability, to my natural strengths. So I was kind of working like a dog um, towards a job that I didn't want for basically my ego, for more money, for a bit better title, all this sort of stuff. Anyway, so I came back from being signed off from work and started, thankfully, working with a different manager. And this other manager and I had actually worked together for a really long time before he became my manager, so we knew each other really well. And it actually worked to my advantage because I was really honest with this guy, way more so than I ever would have been if I'd known that he was going to be my manager, kind of thing. So he knew me really well. And what then proceeded to happen is that he became the best manager that I've ever had. Shout out, Nick, you're absolutely brilliant and you've genuinely changed my life. Thank you very much. Um, as did the manager that wasn't great, but for very different reasons. So thank you to both of them. I'm really, really grateful for both of them because they have both absolutely led me on this journey. Anyway, in comes Nick, and he, I think in like one of our first meetings or something, on Zoom, this is, bear in mind, because we are in the midst of COVID. And he's like, tell me what you want to do. I don't feel like this job is you. Like, tell me what you want. And I was like, I couldn't answer the question because nobody had ever asked me that before in my entire, what was then about 12-year career. No one had ever asked me that before. No one had ever said, what do you actually want to do? And through working with him, and a few other things, and kind of also going through coaching at that point in time as well, I realized that we all have so much more power than we think we do, but we kind of forget because life takes over and because we're just like really exhausted by the end of the day. And the last thing that we want to do is give any kind of attention to the thing that we dislike, which is work. So we sort of accept that work's a bit shit and we just have to get on with it. And that makes me really sad because work makes up what is it, a third of, we spend a third of our day at work. And actually, if you think about the waking day, well, a third of our lives. And actually, if you think about the waking life, it's something like, 66% or something of our waking life is spent at work. So why shouldn't we love it? And actually, what Nick taught me to do was how to kind of rediscover what my strengths were and what I loved, get back in touch with those. And then he enabled me to sort of lean into them and redesign my role around those strengths, which nobody has ever, like, that's never happened before. I didn't think it was possible, kind of thing. I didn't know it was a thing. And this was in a corporate career. This was in a corporate 9 to 5, and the job was fun. It was fulfilling. It was flexible, but it also had the security and kind of safety of a regular paycheck and a half decent one at that. So I strongly believe that every single job, it is possible to find that. You just need to know how. And that is what I want to share with other people. So, having gone down this route of redesigning my job, what I found were some kind of really happy sort of coincidences, or, I don't believe in coincidences because I'm quite spiritual, but whatever. Some wonderful things that happened on the back of it, which is basically, um, after being so burnt out, I basically put some much better boundaries in place. So I never worked before 9 a.m. I always took a full hour for lunch, and I never worked after 5. And what I found was that in the time that I was actually at my desk, because I was doing what I loved, because I was doing what I was good at, and because I was prioritizing my physical health, so I felt really good, I absolutely fucking smashed it. So I did probably double the amount of work in about half the amount of time. So I worked less than I ever have. I got a £16,000 pay rise, which is completely unheard of on the back of it. Um, and I felt so fulfilled. I loved what I did, and I was so much happier. And I had so much time around me to spend with, my partner, now husband, and, just kind of remember what life was all about. And it all came down to stepping into my power and kind of remembering that I have the power to change this. Or not even that, I guess, because I didn't know. It was just kind of being told and being empowered to make that change. And this is what I want to share with other people. So if you're feeling wobbly about work, if you don't love it, if you hate it, even if you're just super disengaged, whatever it is, the first step is clarity. So just get really, really clear on what it is that you don't like about your job. It might be the culture, it might be the people, it might be the job itself. Get really specific and like actually take the time to kind of sit and reflect on what that is. Then once you know what that is, that's an amazing place to start from, because then you can start to make some changes, and that's kind of where the magic happens. So yeah, so that's kind of my backstory really. And then now I've created a business where um, I work holistically. So I have a fully holistic approach to how I teach, which covers the six key pillars of life. So the first one, which is foundational to everything, which we just talked about, is physical health, because at the very, very minimum, if you're not, um, you know, prioritizing and looking after yourself from a nutrition point of view, if you're not exercising and if you're not prioritizing sleep and rest, then you're going to be fucked, basically. And that's just the very, very basics. There are also three, sometimes four other bits that kind of sit in there as well that are really important. So that's the kind of first level of stuff that I teach. And then we also look at um, the other pillars of life. So social health, mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, and financial health. Because if either one of those isn't working, then you're going to feel like shit. And what's really interesting is the impact that a job that you dislike has on all of those key pillars. So for me, for example, physically, how I showed up physically was, well, I treated my body like shit because I was drinking really heavily, smoking pretty heavily, and eating shit because I was hungover or drunk basically the whole time, because I didn't love my job. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was really stressed about my manager, and like kind of every kind of just felt horrendous. Every time before a meeting I'd feel like really nervous and stuff. Anyway, that's kind of a different bit, but that was physical health. That's how it showed up physically for me. Socially, again, and I find people go two ways on this. You're either in the pub the whole time drowning your sorrows, or you kind of retreat from social engagements. For me, it was very much I was in the pub all the time and I was just shit faced the whole time. And then mentally, like I said, so I had huge anxiety and kind of pressure that I put on myself. No, this was actually nothing to do with my manager. He was doing his best trying to encourage me because he knew that I was hungry for this promotion. So he was doing his best trying to encourage me. Um, and all I felt, I kind of internalized that as pressure, and it made me super nervous. And I kind of spent huge amounts of time over preparing for meetings, which should have, at the most needed about 5 minutes to think about. So that was huge. And then that's kind of because it took me so long to prepare for stuff. I was so bad at delivering in my job. I just couldn't do it because all my headspace was taken up with over preparing for stuff. So that's the mental side. What's next? Emotional. So emotionally, I've always been a sensitive soul, which, by the way, if you're a sensitive person, is your superpower. You just need to know how to use it. But it did mean that my emotions were kind of at the top all the time. So depending on what was happening, I would quite often be quite close to tears. I would actually cry quite a lot in the background, like after meetings and stuff, because I was just so anxious and so kind of emotionally out of tune. Next up is spiritual. So the spiritual side of things is a slightly different side, which to me is about having a connection with kind of the world, other people, community, and supporting people and things that are bigger than yourself, kind of thing. And I had absolutely zero time to do any of that because I was just fully obsessed with basically getting this promotion, getting a job title, getting more money. And then obviously financially, and this is one that people really forget actually. So if you're working in a job that you don't love or that makes you unhappy, you're not going to be working to your strengths. So you're not going to feel good. So you're not going to be paid well for delivering good work because you're not going to deliver good work. I did not deliver good work in that time where I was desperately trying to get promoted. And it was a desperation. It really was. It didn't come from a place of kind of comfort and feeling good. I was absolutely desperate to get this thing. And yeah, so they're kind of the six key pillars. That's how it was impacted for me. And then, like I said, when it came to redesigning my job and feeling good and all this kind of thing, all these things kind of fell into place. And what's really interesting is that the work felt easy, it felt good, it felt aligned, it flowed. And it was amazing. And it was because it was working towards my natural skill sets. And what's really interesting is that in that particular business at the time, I didn't really think that my natural skill sets had a place there. And actually, what happened is um, I carved out a role which was absolutely important for that business. And like I said, I got a £16,000 pay rise in the first year of doing these things. And I was well on a track to being promoted and put forward and all that sort of stuff. And then um, there was kind of whispers of the possibility of being made redundant, which was really exciting because I'd always been thinking about setting up this business. Well, I had set up this business by that point. Um, and I'd been wanting to go full time into it for a really long time by this point. But I'd never had the kind of guts to do so. And what it did, and so hang on, let's start again. And I believe that things like redundancy are actually the universe reaching out to you, giving you a little bit of a gentle nudge, being like, let's just come out of autopilot. 'Cause I'd been in that role for 5 years by this point. Let's come out of autopilot and let's do something different. Let's wake you up from where you are. I read this amazing statistic the other day from Susie Ashworth in her brilliant book. Can't remember the name of it right now, but it's amazing. And it says that 49% of us, no, sorry, we live 49% of our lives on autopilot. So we're not really living, we're just existing. We're just kind of doing the same thing over and over and over again. The same commute, see the same people, go to the same place for lunch, use the same cubicle to go to the loo, all these things so that we don't really have to think about it. But that means that we're on this kind of autopilot. And I think that redundancy is the universe's way of waking you up out of autopilot and reminding you to live. And I think what it does is, for the most part, it gives you this amazing moment in life where you get a bit of a financial cushion and you get time to reflect. And quite often, what is also underrated is that sometimes in the run up to redundancy, sometimes you're told about it a few months in advance and then you are made redundant. Sometimes it happens straight away. There's a little bit of back and forth. It depends on the business and what's going on, kind of thing. But at that point, if you do have that space, then again, you have time. And I used my time to set up my business. So I started coaching within the company, and I had two different coaching containers, and I had four, I think, different one-to-one clients within the business. And then that was kind of all I needed to show me signals that this was going to work. So yeah, so that's where we are. And here we are today. And so what I offer today is kind of three main areas that I focus on. One of them is how to get promoted at work. And this is a 5-part framework that I've essentially kind of created because when I was going for my promotion, I thought it was all about key skills. And actually, it's so much more than that. So the first part of that framework is about clarity. It's about what do you want? It's about what your skills are, what your strengths are, what you lean into. It's also about clarity of what's possible within the business at that time, though. So in some businesses, and I think this is a really poor way of working, but in some cases this is true. So some businesses kind of dead man's shoes. So essentially, if nobody leaves above you and if there's no space, then you can't get promoted, which is really sad because that means that people that are doing really well don't get recognised. But let's be honest, if that's the reality of where you work, then you've got to think about what you want. If you're really ambitious, maybe you don't want to be there anymore, or actually if this isn't going to work for you, you're just not going to get a promotion. But you might still be able to get a pay rise, so stick with me. So that's the first part, clarity. Second part is mindset. We talk all about growth mindset. So growth mindset, I'm sure you know, is all about seeing problems as challenges. It's about the sort of attitude that you approach problems with. Fixed mindset sees problems as problems that can't be overcome. They see that, people have skill sets that can't change. So things are very much kind of fixed, obviously, with the name. And then the second part of mindset is around shifting your paradigm. This builds on the work from Dr. Benjamin Hardy, who is absolutely brilliant. And he talks about identity being the standards that you accept and the stories that we tell ourselves. And the story we tell ourselves is all about kind of who I am. Who am I? The standards I accept are kind of the boundaries and things that you put in place. And the point is that if we want to become someone else, if we want to step up and get promoted or step into leadership or whatever, then we can shift our paradigm, which is our kind of approach, to work from a place of where we want to be in the future rather than where we are now. So, for example, like one of the best things for doing this is kind of hacking your morning routine. Shout out Hal Elrod and the Miracle Morning, absolutely fantastic book if you haven't read it. And he talks about things like, in the morning, how might a leader show up, kind of thing. They're probably not going to sleep in till 11 o'clock in the morning and snooze their alarm because they're hungover from the night before, kind of thing. And it's just like really small things like that. They're probably going to get up and exercise. They've probably got visualization and gratitude and things like that built into their morning routine. They might meditate, all this kind of thing. And actually, all of this is within your power to change. And it's really simple to do so, but it's an absolute game changer. So that's mindset. That's the second part. Third part is key leadership capabilities, and they are very important. And obviously, depending on where you are, will depend on what kind of things, skill sets you need to look at there. One of the most important and underrated ones, I think, is quite simply thinking. So, thinking time is really important. So, if you want to get promoted at the moment, one of the best bits of advice that I can offer you is this: make time in your diary to do some thinking this week. I used to do Friday afternoon because it was really good. There was never any meetings then. Most people had kind of checked out. You didn't get many messages either distracting you. So put an hour in your diary and think about, first of all, do a little retro. What went well that week, what didn't go so well, what you learned, what you might do differently on the basis of what you learned, what didn't go so well, kind of thing. And the second thing is take time to think about the problems in your sort of immediate business or vicinity or whatever at the moment. Kind of think about the problems, what's going on, what are the biggest problems, and then start to think about how you might solve them. And that is one of the most important things of leadership. Leadership is all about problem solving. It's about kind of thinking longer term within the realms of the resources that you've got, that kind of thing. So have a think about that. So that's key leadership capabilities. That's the third piece. Fourth piece is about making it happen. So this is things like being visible. You need to be visible in all the right places to all the right people. And this is all about kind of looking at who the key decision makers are, making sure that you're visible in front of them. And we've got so much kind of step-by-step advice that I can give you for, how to do that in a really, really simple, strategic way. And then it's also things like, are you being a busy fool? So if you follow me already, you will have heard me say this phrase a lot. Are you being a busy fool? Are you focusing on the high impact, high value work? Because if you're not, that's a problem. And if you are, then that's great. That's going to get you forward. But if you're not, then again, give me a follow. Have a look at our website. We've got a few different resources there, so that can help you kind of discover which one you are. And then number 5, and this is all about amplifying it with a sprinkle of magic. So the other side of how I work leverages the law of attraction. Shout out to Francesca Amber and her absolutely amazing book club. Law of Attraction changed my life. Her podcast, which is free, and her book club, which is like £10 a month or something, I think it is. She's absolutely amazing. She's genuinely changed my life. And she talks about the law of attraction, and I kind of take it a step further when I bring it into my work, because I bring together the power of science, strategy, spirituality, and a little sprinkle of magic. And that is where the magic happens. So what this kind of means for people that I work with is that we'll put together a strategic plan for you to implement, for you to work with, and then right at the end we'll amplify it with a little bit of magic, being a gratitude process, or we might kind of feng shui the southeast corner of your home, put a prosperity bowl there and do a little ritual. Side note, if you're worried about finances at the moment, which it seems everybody is in the world, find the southeast corner of your home and clean it and put some money or something that represents abundance to you. So that might be abundance around health, it might be money, it might be a foreign currency, you might want to travel, that sort of thing. Anyway, I get distracted. So that is the first thing that I do. That's my flagship sort of course and cause, essentially. I want to help people get promoted at work. I want to help them earn more money. I want to help them lean into what they know and love. And actually the promotion is essentially kind of a side effect of just loving what you do and being really good at it. So that's the first piece. The second piece is redundancy, and it's really scary, kind of what's happening at the moment. There's a huge amount of stuff going out there. I actually get alerts for redundancy, and there's a huge amount. I read the other day that 89% of SMEs are making redundancies at the moment, or have done since the last budget. What else was there? Huge. The big banks are doing it. A lot of the big supermarkets and things are doing it. And actually, it's just what everybody does at this time of year, at this kind of cycle in the economy. Don't worry, it's not new. It's totally normal. But the best thing about it is that I think redundancy can actually be the best thing that's ever happened to you. So, like I said, with me, it was the universe, kicking me up the arse, telling me to put on my big girl pants and actually do what I said I was going to do, and fully lean into who I am. And it's the best decision I ever made. So, stay tuned on that. And the third place I support people with is around moving out of the corporate world or out of the 9 to 5. And I call this mastering your magic, because I think kind of leaning into who you are, what you love, and building on the work of the Japanese concept ikigai, which is apparently how to find your purpose. And the ikigai is this Venn diagram where what you love, what you're good at, what you get paid for, and what the world needs overlaps, and that is your purpose in the middle of all that. So we build on that, we go through that and kind of create that with you, what your ikigai is. But then we also, more importantly, help you get from where you are now to where you want to be. And the answer to that is not to quit your job immediately. Absolutely not. We've all got bills to pay. We're all adults, don't, yes, it's really exciting, this new shiny thing, but do it properly. Do it in a kind of staged and sustainable way. And I will help you do that. So yeah, so that's me really. I hadn't really thought of much else to say other than that. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of reintroduce myself. Um, and yeah, welcome to season two. Season two is going to look a little bit different. Firstly, I'm filming it. Hi. Secondly, we're going to have guests. So once a month, we're going to bring in a guest to help solve your workplace problems. This is building on my weekly email called Your Workplace Agony Aunt. So when I left my previous job, loads of people that I worked with were like, Tess, who are going to come to answer all our problems? And I was like, oh, that's an excellent idea. So I created Your Workplace Agony Aunt, which is a weekly email where you can submit your own problems, and then I go through and answer them. And then once a month, we select one of those problems for a guest to come and help me solve and give their perspective as well, and someone who is the expert in that area. So stay tuned for that. And then, yeah, otherwise, thanks so much for being here. If you could like and subscribe, that would be excellent. And I would really, really appreciate it. And yeah, hopefully you found this interesting. Please do share it with kind of friends, family, whatever, if they're having a difficult time at work. Even not even if it's a difficult time at work, just if people don't love what they do, because it's absolutely there for the taking. You just need to remember that the power is yours to do so. So yeah, thank you so much for being here. And I look forward to seeing you again next time. Take care. Hope you have a great day.